Hey, what's up guys? Doing some more work on the 99 Honda Accord 3.0 V6 today, and I'm going to be putting in a new alternator along with a new belt tensioner and also replacing the serpentine belt along with the power steering belt. So I'm going to be jacking up the front end, so I'm going to go ahead and block the rear wheel here. So we're going to have to remove the front passenger wheel, and over here you got this little arrow here, and then we're going to put our jack right there, and we'll jack it up and put our jack stand under there as well. Next, let's go ahead and remove the wheel and tire. So grab a 19mm. Next, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the battery since we'll be working with the alternator. Next, I'm going to go ahead and remove this cover here. You got two 10mm bolts here, and then also this one as well, which I believe just pulls off of here. Now looking at our alternator here, let's go ahead and pull off this 10mm bolt here. And then let's go ahead and disconnect our electrical connector here. Should be able to just put your thumb on this tab here and then pull up. Then you can go ahead and grab a screwdriver or some pliers or something. Let's go ahead and pull this little boot off here. And then behind that boot there, you can see we got a little 10mm nut we need to take off. And to do that, I'm just going to use a little stubby gear wrench here. And then you should be able to just pull this off. Now we can kind of get this up out of the way a little bit here. And then I think normally you have like a hook right in here that holds this harness on. And as you can tell, mine's broken on here. Next, we'll go ahead and remove the serpentine belt. So you want to locate your belt tensioner pulley. And you can see it's that one right there. And that's going to be a 14mm on that bolt. You can do this from up top here, or I like to do it from down below. So if you do it from down below here in the wheel well, normally you'll have a little plastic lining along here, but as you can see, mine's busted off and missing. So I think there's just a few clips you need to remove to pull that off. And so once you do get that off, you can see our crank pulley right here, and then AC compressor, and then that's going to be our belt tensioner pulley there, and this is going to be our belt tensioner that we're going to be replacing. So go ahead and grab a 14mm, and I like to use 2 wrenches on this, and we'll pull on that pulley, and we'll release the tension and pull the belt off. So yeah, just go ahead and grab your 14mm and stick that on that pulley up there. Like I said, I like to just use another wrench here, and you'll stick this wrench on here, kind of lock it on there, and then we're going to pull downward, and you can see that tensioner spring releases. So you want to pull down, and then just pull your old belt off here, off the crank, and then you go ahead and relieve the tension on that. And then you can go ahead and pull your belt off the rest of the way, and off your alternator from up top. So back up top here, let's go ahead and start removing this alternator first. And it looks like we got a top bolt here, and that's going to be a 12mm, so go ahead and remove that. And then this power steering reservoir is kind of in the way getting some of these other bolts out. So I'm just going to try and pull off this 10mm bolt here and see if that's enough. If not, we may have to pull this whole reservoir, but we'll see. Let's go ahead and 10mm, take that off. Okay, so next we need to remove this bracket right here, and you can see it's kind of hard to see, but see if I can zoom in here. You got a 12mm bolt right there that we need to remove. So let's go ahead and pull that off. So with that bolt off, now you should be able to just pull this bracket up, just like that. Next we're going to go ahead and grab a 14mm and undo that bolt right there. And then, like I said, if you need to, since we unbolted this, we can move this kind of out of the way to give you a little more room. Okay, so with your alternator loose, I'm not quite sure how we're going to get this out of here. I already tried pulling it right through here, and there's no way that's going to come out. And doesn't seem to be enough room right here, pulling it out through here. So what I think I'm going to do is, looks real easy just to get this fan out of the way, because this one's separate from that one over there. And you got a little wiring harness here. As you can see, mine's busted right there. And then you got another one right here. And as you can see, this one's busted as well. So I'm going to have to put new clips on those. But undo those two clips. And then down below here, you got one more. It's kind of hard to see, but you can see this one's also broken off of mine. Everything's just so brittle. And then let's go ahead and unplug this. I'll go ahead and push down on this. Pull that out. And then we got two 10mm bolts here. So let me go ahead and pull those. Now let's just see if with all that detached, let's see if we can just slide this fan out of here. Should just pull up. Just watch your wires. Actually, let's see if we can go on the outside of this here. Just kind of pull it out like that. And then I'm also just going to pull off this 10mm right here and pull this bracket off, just to give us a little bit more room of getting that out of there. And that gives us a little more room there. Now let's go ahead and try and pull that alternator out of here. There's our alternator. So before we go ahead and put our new alternator in, that gives us plenty of room to get this belt tensioner off. So let's go ahead and do that. And hopefully you can see it. But in order to get that tensioner off, we need to remove the dipstick tube. And we got a 10mm bolt that's going to be right there we need to remove for the dipstick tube. And then that'll give us room to take that top bolt off the tensioner there. So let's go ahead and pull the dipstick tube bolt there. So now with that bolt out of there, you should be able to just pull up on the dipstick tube here. Just pull that out. And then as you can see, we got a little gasket right there. And now down below here, this is where your dipstick tube went in. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of shove a little rag in there just so no dirt and debris or a nut or a bolt doesn't fall down in there. Just kind of stick a rag or something in here just to keep, like I said, anything from falling down in there. Safety measures. So next, while we're down here, let's go ahead and loosen this lower belt tensioner bolt here. That's going to be a 10 millimeter. Next, we're going to grab an 8 millimeter. We're going to take out the center bolt on the tensioner here. And I think what works the best is if you have it, a little 1/4 inch breaker bar. And then just a small socket there. Stick that on there. And loosen that. And now back up top here, let's undo that other 10 millimeter bolt on top here. And go ahead and pull your tensioner out of here. So back up top, before I put on the new tensioner, let's go ahead and replace this power steering belt really quick here. And you want to grab a 12 millimeter. Let's go ahead and loosen that bolt right there. Like I said, just loosen this one. You don't have to pull it all the way out. So next one we're going to loosen, it's going to be down in here. That one right there, 12 millimeter as well. And this one's kind of hard to get into, but you just kind of got to go right by this motor mount here and then back underneath there like that. And again, all you got to do is just loosen this one as well. Next, we'll go ahead and start loosening this one. As you loosen that one, you can see the pump starting to go down, which is relieving the tension on the belt. So now that we got this is pretty loose here, let's see if we can slip our belt off. Just kind of slip it off there. And now the next thing we need to do is, because in order to get that belt off of there, we need to take off this part of the motor mount here. So we need to undo this bolt here, and then along with these two right here. And then we also got this wiring harness bracket that we need to pull off as well. And then also get a jack underneath to support the engine a little bit. So underneath the car here, I'm just going to take a block of wood and set it on my jack here. And I'm just going to go right underneath the oil pan there. And then I'm not really jacking up on it, just kind of holding it there to stabilize it, and you should be good. Now we'll go ahead and grab a 17 millimeter, and let's go ahead and pull this bolt out right here on the motor mount. Next, go ahead and grab a 10 millimeter. Let's pull off this little bolt here holding this wiring harness on. And now next we'll grab a 14 millimeter. Let's undo those two bolts right there on the motor mount. Next, see if we can get this mount off of here. You can probably just leave it like that, because all we need to do is get enough room to get that belt off of there. So now I'll go ahead and take your belt. Like I said, now that we got this motor mount out of the way, kinda, you can slip that underneath there. And then go down below here onto your crank pulley here. Go ahead and pull that off. And let's see if we can just pull it off from up here. And there's your power steering bolt, or your belt. So next, go ahead and grab your new belt. You can see I just went with a Dayco. And I'll put a link in the description of the belts, the alternator, and also the tensioner that I got from Amazon. So check that out. Let's pull it off. You just want to make sure, look at your old one here. You want to make sure you got the same number of grooves. And if you can, stretch it out just to make sure it's the same length. But as you can see, the old one's kind of stretched out, so it'll be a little bit longer. So let's go ahead and stick the new belt on there. So I'm just going to take my new belt, kind of stick it in here, and I'm going to go down below there and get that around the crank pulley onto the back side of that pulley there. Then let's see if this pump's loosened enough for the new belt. And looks like we need to loosen it a little more because it's a new belt. It needs to be, or it isn't stretched out yet. So go ahead and loosen this a little more. Just enough to get your belt on there. And then just make sure you're in the grooves on the pulley there. Same with down below. Now let's go ahead and get the right tension on our steering belt here. But I think I'm gonna pull this bracket out of here, this motor mount. That'll give us a little more room to get to that lower bolt to tighten it. So just kind of pull this up out of here. So now let's go ahead and slowly start tightening that bolt there, or that nut. And as you can see, we still got a lot of play on our belt here. So just go ahead and start tightening that, and that'll start bringing that pump upward, putting more tension on the belt. And so with that somewhat tight, I like to just kind of get my fingers down here, kind of push or pull on the belt here, and you got to kind of use your own judgment on this, because you don't want it too tight, and then you also don't want it too loose as well. Let me go just a little more. So I think kind of about that much play is what I'm going to go with. So once you're happy with the amount of play on that belt, go ahead and grab your 12mm. And let's tighten up this lower nut here. And then also go ahead and do this one over here as well. So once you get all those tight, just go ahead and double check the tension on your belt again, because sometimes tightening those two will actually tighten that up just a hair as well. So just make sure you didn't over tighten it. And then go ahead and grab your motor mount bracket, and let's go ahead and stick that back in here. And then I'm going to go ahead and stick this 17mm through first, because this was kind of hard to pull out of there. So let me just kind of get that started first. And then go ahead and grab your other two here, stick those in. And let's go ahead and tighten all those up. And then go ahead and put your little wiring harness back on here as well. So with your motor mounts tight, you can go ahead and get your jack out of here and your block of wood. Next we'll go ahead and put our tensioner on, and again just compare it to your old one, your new one. And I just went with the off of Amazon, the Gates 38169. So I'm going to start down below and get my little 8mm bolt through first. Get them started for now. So with all three of those bolts started, let's go ahead and tighten them. And then same on the bottom here, go ahead and tighten them up. Next we'll go ahead and do our dipstick tube. So go ahead and pull your rag out of here. And I'll feed that down from the top. And just like before, just go ahead and grab your little 10mm bolt here and stick that in. And then go ahead and stick your dipstick back in there. Next we'll go ahead and mount the alternator, and again just compare it to your old one to your new one. I just went with an AC Delco brand new one, not a manufactured one, and 335-1056 is the part number. So just like before, go ahead and stick your new alternator in here, and the plug goes on top here. Then go ahead and line up this right here. You can take your long bolt and get that one started in there. So with that one started, go ahead and grab your little bracket here, and let's go ahead and put this on here. Screw that in to the cylinder head there. Grab your 12mm and just kind of tighten this a little bit. Just don't tighten it all the way yet. We still got to move this. Grab your other alternator bolts here. Move your alternator up. And let's get that screwed in. Now you can go ahead and tighten this all the way, that little bracket. And then we can go ahead and tighten this one here. Then go ahead and grab your 14mm, and we'll go ahead and tighten that one up the rest of the way. Then go ahead and pull off your little 8mm nut on your new alternator. Then go ahead and grab your wiring harness here. Stick that on, followed by your new nut. Grab your 10mm and let's go ahead and tighten that up. Then you go ahead and plug your harness back in here. And go ahead and put that boot back over that. And then go ahead and grab your 10mm bolt here for your bracket. And then go ahead and grab your little 10mm bolt here for your power steering reservoir. Let's put that back on. And then just like your power steering belt, again I went with the Dayco Serpentine belt. And again, just count the grooves. Same with your old one here. You can see that matches up. And just make sure the length is similar as well. Alright, let's go ahead and put that on. So I'm going to start on top here and get this shoved down in there. So I'm going to try to get it around the alternator first. And then you want to, this smooth side goes underneath the belt tensioner pulley there. And I'll try to go down below and get it around the AC compressor. So down below here, try and get this belt on. As you can see, our belt tensioner pulley here, like I said, I got the smooth side coming off the alternator, coming down, and this will go around the crankshaft, and then from the alternator coming straight down around the AC compressor pulley right here as well. So you kind of just want to kind of pull that tight, but make sure that stays under your tensioner there. Since the newer belts are not stretched out or anything. And then go ahead and grab your 14mm. Again, I like to stick another long wrench on there. Just make sure you're on that nut up there. Then go ahead and pull on your tensioner. And let's see if we can slip this belt on around the crankshaft pulley here. Okay, so kind of like that. And then again, just kind of make sure you're in the grooves. Relieve the tension. And let's go check up top, make sure we're good up there. So back up top, you can see we're on the alternator there. And then you can kind of see down in there, we are on the crankshaft pulley. And then we're going underneath the belt tensioner pulley there. So we should be good. Next we'll go ahead and put our fan on. And as you can see, I just clipped off those broken zip tied clips that were on there. And then as you can see, this bottom one here, that's actually going to be this connector here. And mine wasn't on there when I took it off, but I'll stick it back on. But it looks like this part right here will slide down onto this piece right here. So let's go ahead and stick this in. Grab your two little 10mm bolts here. Along with your radiator bracket. Just clips in there like that. Plug your harness back in here. And then I'll get some zip ties and we'll zip tie around that. Same with this one. And let me get this one down here plugged in, or not plugged in, but slid on that little bracket I was talking about earlier. So like I said earlier, try to get this slid onto this bracket here. Just kind of goes like that. And then I just want to show you guys underneath here. I was missing this bolt, but you do have a bolt down here as well. So when you go to take it off, just don't forget about that. I'm going to see if I can find another one to stick in there. Alright, so as you can see, I just put a couple zip ties on there. And that should work. And then I also found a bolt. So I just took the one that was in here, put it down below, and then put my new bolt in here. Next we'll go ahead and get our battery hooked up. Get your positive on first. Grab your cover. Your 10mm bolts. Your other cover. You go and get your tire and wheel back on. Then go ahead and tighten these to 80 foot-pounds. Next we'll go ahead and start it. And then just make sure down in your bottom left corner your battery light's not on. And then with it running, just make sure everything looks good. Looks like our belts are turning and it should be good over here. And then one last double check, if you got a meter, it's got this little one here. You can turn to volts DC. You can go to 20. And then go ahead and put your positive on your positive, and your negative on your negative. As you can see, alternator's good. It's charging right at 14.8. Alright, so that's going to do it for the video. Hopefully this helps you out. Again, this was a 1999 Honda Accord 3.0 V6, and I went ahead and replaced the alternator along with the belt tensioner, and then also the serpentine belt and power steering belt. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel and check out some of my other videos. I got quite a few on this car alone, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.